Hi guys, welcome back to my channel as we go through the Law of One raw material, and we're going to dive into the tarot today. So I know the tarot really well. I studied the tarot for years before I discovered the Law of One, so you can imagine I fell off my chair when I got to book 4, which is the book where they discuss the tarot. And it gave me a really good foundation that I studied the tarot so much before I discovered the Law of One and before my awakening and other things that were happening to me. So I love the tarot. I have many tarot decks. Let me show you my setup here a little bit. So I'll share with you guys my area where I like to read tarot and hang out and edit videos and do my other businesses. And I have a lot of tarot decks. I actually have a lot more than this. I've got about 3 shoe boxes full of decks, but these are the ones I'm working with right now. So I absolutely love tarot. The more decks sometimes I collect, have gone through, the better I learned about symbolism. And there's also the Law of One box set for the 40 years. So this is where I work. So yeah, I deep dive into the tarot many years ago. The way it translates from traditional tarot to the tarot that's in the Law of One books, there's so many similarities. And I'm going to be using the Rider-Waite tarot. Out of all the decks that are available to us, this one has the most cleanest transition with symbolism and meaning between this tarot and the tarot that is in the books. So all the imagery that's in the books, this is the best matched, is the Rider-Waite tarot. So we're going to be using this deck opposed to any other deck. So the tarot, let's first talk about the Fool's Journey and really understand that in modern tarot before we dive into how it is organized in the books. So we have the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana. So the Major Arcana is this, and it's 22 cards. So, and we're going to be talking about the Fool's Journey, and you can kind of translate that to the journey of a soul. Everything that a soul goes through in our third density. And these are the major life lessons of a soul. So it's called the Major Arcana. Now there's also, bring this over, the Minor Arcana, and that's the rest of the deck. And there's 78 cards total, but only 22 of them are major, and these are minor. So you can think of it as the Minor Arcana being small life lessons, the little things that happen in your day-to-day life, and these are major life lessons, like like the catalyst that you come across in your life would be the Major Arcana. So just like as an example here, this is the 5 of Cups, and it's a card that represents loss. So this guy is really upset over the 3 cups that are spilled and what got lost when they got spilled, but there's still 2 cups that are full, but he doesn't really pay attention. He's just obsessed or really upset with what is lost. So it's a minor loss. It's not a total loss. So that just, is an example. And then we have like the Ace of Pentacles, which represents beginning something new, the start of something. And we also have these characters because the Minor Arcana is much more like the deck of cards that you would play poker with. And everything that deck of cards has, it can be represented with the Major Arcana. So it was a card game, like some people use it as a card game. So anyway, but we're not going to talk about the Minor Arcana because it's not in the book of the Law of One. I just want to focus on the Fool's Journey and how everything that gets depicted in these cards gets crossed over to the book. So I'm going to put that away. So. And before I get started on this, there's a lot of people that study tarot develop their own style a lot for the things that the cards represent. And I'm going to try and just use what I know that's in the books to represent things. So if you're a tarot card reader out there, don't jump on me if I don't depict something the way you know of tarot, because tarot can also be a personal meaning to cards. There's not just this one overall way to learn the tarot. You can kind of get some guidance, but as you learn tarot and study tarot more and more, you develop your own style. So I'm going to kind of try to stay away from all of that and just go through the Fool's Journey. So Let's just look at the book just a tiny bit before we get started. So at the beginning is all the tarot cards. So all 22 are broken up into groups of 7, and each group of 7 represents the archetype. So we've got the archetype of the mind, archetype of the body, and archetype of the spirit. And after that's that last card of the world card, then you have the Fool. And it is called the choice, service to others or service to self. You can't make that choice until you're at the end of your journey. When you learn the law of one, at the end of third density, after you've been through everything third density has to offer and have, been there, done that, do you have everything you need in order to make that choice? But there is a crossover, because this journey starts and ends with a step. You have your first step and your last step in a journey. And so that's why this card of the Fool can be represented as like 0, like the card that comes before 1. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to go all the way up to 22. The Fool can be a 0. So the very first and last step, and even in other books, let me show you something. So this is the Rider-Waite book. When you're learning tarot, I really do suggest you get this book if you want to really learn about tarot, because it really goes into deep detail over on everything that you need to learn about traditional tarot reading. So let's start with the Fool. So the Fool, can you see this? Oops, bumping my camera. It has both 0 and 22 marked on it as the first and last step in the journey of the Fool. Moving my camera around. And what I'm going to be using today when I'm talking about these, this is the Rider-Waite deck, but it's got foils on it just to make it pretty. So, and I'm going to be using that one. Okay, put that away. So let's get started here. Let's just close this so we can focus on just the Fool's journey here. So we have the Fool. Think of the Fool as a blank slate. The Fool, like, we always want to see the Fool as like someone who doesn't know anything or an idiot, but it's more like a carefree spirit, like you're setting off into the world, you're not scared of anything, the world is your oyster and you just want to experience things, but nothing's happened yet. So you can see like the Fool, he's taking his first step off a cliff, and he's not scared, he's carefree, his head's in the clouds, he doesn't care, because he doesn't know what fear is yet. Like others know fear, like the dog. But he is going on a journey because he's got a little tiny sack, he's got a staff, and he's about to set out, and it's all sunny. And so it's like a very positive card when you start with the Fool. So he goes on, so he's going on a journey and he hasn't experienced anything yet, and he's carefree about everything. So that's the first card of the Fool. So we're going to come back to this card at the very end as well. So the second is the Magician. So the Magician is known as the manifester. You're going to manifest your dreams. And to do that, first you have to think about what you want, right? So you can see the arms here of the Magician, as above, so below. So first you have to think of something, and then you can manifest it. And that's kind of what that is about right there. As above, so below. And the Magician can, it's almost like he's going to cast a spell, or he's like the alchemist that's going to bring whatever he's thinking into fruition. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this guy, because once I go through some symbolism about this card, it makes the rest of the journey a little bit more flowy. So let's talk about everything that's on the table in front of the Magician. We have a pentacle, a cup, a sword, and a staff. Now, all of these kind of can represent suits that are in the minor arcana, and they actually have a lot of symbolism and meaning behind them. So if we just look at the cup represents your emotions, and it also represents the element of water. So whenever you see water in the tarot, you're going to know that there's something being dealt with emotions. Every time you see a cup, you're dealing with emotions. So, and the next one is like a pentacle, little pentacle there. Now the pentacle represents things that you can hold in your hand, tangible things. Like the cup in a deck of cards represents the hearts. The pentacle would represent the diamonds. Like you can hold a diamond in your hand. And also it represents the earth. You know, you can stand on the earth, you can touch the earth, you can hold the earth. So that is what the pentacle means in the rest of the tarot every time you see that with the minor arcana. And so we have also the sword. So the sword represents your thoughts, things that you were thinking. So you can't hold it, but you can think of words, you know, like words can cut like a knife. That's how I always remember those. And those are like the spades in the regular deck. And they're also the representation of the element of air, okay? And then the last one that is on the table is the staff, the wooden staff, which represents fire. You kind of know that by, you can set a staff on fire, and it can grow leaves just like the flower of a deck. And so that would be the clubs. And so a staff represents action. So like, and I always remember it, when you're going on a journey, you need a staff as a walking stick. So it's an action-packed element that represents fire. So the magician now has everything it needs to manifest whatever it wants to manifest. And so this is the second step in the Fool's Journey. And next is the High Priestess. Now the High Priestess, when you're reading tarot, the first thing that you think of is your intuition, your subconscious or your higher self. The subconscious is represented by the moon, you know, things that are not on the surface and hidden that she has her foot on. And the High Priestess to me is a very, it's a spiritual card. I look at it as if I was going to look at this card and come up, it would be like, what is my higher self trying to tell me? Because the higher self is operating from a place in the future. Your higher self is in 6th density, so it can be also looked at a very almost like psychic card. Like if you wanted to go to a psychic, you would go see the High Priestess to know your future. But you need to become the High Priestess. You need to use your intuition and your gut feeling when you're dealing with things in life. And this is kind of like what this card represents. Yeah, so trust your instincts with this one. And next we have the Divine Feminine. It's depicted as a pregnant woman. So it can mean birth, rebirth, being born. Now that you want to incarnate, say, in a life, you're about to be born. The Divine Feminine is about making your kind of dreams come true, bringing things into fruition, bringing what you want into reality. It's not just manifesting, it's actually the action part of living out and seeking, and you know, because you can't manifest something and just sit in a cave and never come out of your cave. You actually have to do stuff. And this represents bringing all those things that you want into fruition. But if you draw this card when you're just doing a reading or things like that, it can mean birth and pregnancy and love and feminism and all those things. And this is like the third card in the Fool's Journey. The next one is the Emperor, which is the divine masculine. Now the Emperor is depicted as an old man sitting on a throne now. And he is an emperor that has lived a long life, very experienced life. He's been through many wars. He's got a prospering kingdom, and he is very content to where he is. He knows everything. He's been around the block. And you might go to him for advice because he's got so much experience, but it would be advice in life. You wouldn't go to him for spiritual advice, which is going to be, sneak peek is the next card, but you would go to him to advice about, what you should do with your farm this winter, type things like that. But if you wanted to go for advice, for spiritual advice, that's when you have the Hierophant. So the Hierophant can be somewhat of a complex character when dealing with deep meanings to life, and when you want to explore like spirituality matters, and having a wise wisdom, spiritual mentor, religious figure, that type thing. And so you have these two men on each side. They're not depicting confessing. They're depicting as like, when you have like a problem with your faith, you would go to your priest to seek answers about what you should do. It's not, you don't go to your priest, asking, what kind of car you should buy that would work good in this area. You know what I mean? So the Hierophant might be kind of a guide or an advisor to the emperor with matters. And it's kind of, it's thought of that in history. And so that's the 5th card. So the 6th is the Lovers. The Lovers, when you're doing tarot readings, obviously when you get this card, it is about relationships, it's about love, it's about deep feelings and things like that. But it's also about choice. Whenever you have 2 figures, you know that there's a choice to be made. And that's really what the Lovers mean in the tarot, in traditional tarot and with the Law of One tarot. And I kind of always think of the Lovers as a fork in the road when you're making that choice, because the next card is the Chariot, which is going on that journey after you've made the choice on where to go. Now you're on the road. But the Chariot is not a card of a new traveler. You're an experienced traveler by the time you get to the Chariot. You're like the captain of the ship. This is not your first voyage, and you're going somewhere and you're in control. And there's also these oracle type figures of the Sphinx of anytime you need to make a decision or you have a question about what you're doing in your travels, you almost pose a question for the oracles to answer. And that's kind of a very balanced way of traveling. And so, yeah, they've made the choice. They're leaving their kingdom. They're going on a fast journey. And this is also, as far as movement goes, about like timing a lot of things. Like when people want a reading, they want to know the timing of stuff. The Chariot is a very fast moving energy. You are going somewhere when this card comes up, when you're doing a reading, and you're achieving your goals quickly. You're being self-disciplined, you're focused, you're in control of this Chariot. So it's a really good card to get when when you want to go on a journey. And next we have the Strength card, number 8. And the Strength card is not just because there's a lion and a woman with a lion. It's not because the lion is so strong. It's depicted as the woman has so much inner strength. She's so calm, and she can make the lion calm as well. So it's more, whenever you see this card, it's representing your inner strength, and it's got a very strong feminine charm to it. But it also shows a lot of courage and patience with that inner strength. You're not in a rush. You're very confident when you get this card as you're going through the Fool's journey. So what's next? The Hermit. So the Hermit is just that. It's a man all by himself. But when you see this card first come up, when you're doing readings or going through the tarot, you have already been through quite a bit. And now it's time to back off and go within, to seek answers within, to shut out the whole world, because your answers are no longer out in the world. The answers are within. You're already experienced enough to figure things out on your own. You just need to kind of go off and be alone to find the answers within yourself. So inner wisdom, really. So that's number 9. So 10 is the Wheel of Fortune, and it represents cycles that you go through in life. If I had to put it as a wheel, I would want to put it more like a merry-go-round, where you go up and you experience the highs in life, but sometimes there's lows. But don't worry, it's a cycle. You'll have the highs again, and kind of what goes around comes around, and it's a consistent change and cycles that you go through. And it's got a lot. Okay, this card has got so much symbolism in it. It would take me hours to go through each symbol about everything that's within this card. And a lot of the symbolism is not in the Law of One, so we don't need to go over it. And I would say more of this card is just about going out and finding your destiny and experiencing life to find your place in the world is what I would really symbolize this card for. And that's number 10. Next. Okay, so this is Justice, and this is like my personal card. Whenever you read tarot, you always pick one card and develop one card that symbolizes you. So whenever the card comes up, it's about you, and it's trying to signal to pay attention, because this is about you. And the reason why I picked this card for myself is because I'm a Libra, and it has the scales in it, and so that's quite easy for me. So the Justice card does represent a type of judgment, and it's a type of balance and fairness. Whenever you're dealing with this card, I always look at it as the judge, that's in a courtroom, and it's going to be very fair. It's all about, she's holding a sword, so it's all about your thoughts and the things that you're saying to people. So it's not tangible stuff. It's very straight as an arrow talk work with the Justice card. But for the most part, if this card comes up in the tarot, you need to really seek to balance things out in your life, is what this card represents. And next we have the Hangman. Now the Hangman is not a bad card, but if there was going to be any one card in this deck that would represent the dark night of the soul, it would be this card. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that you need to start looking at things from a different perspective, and that's what it's representing. So I always remember this card as if there's a piece of art, like abstract art, and you want to look at it a different way. You know, sometimes people would, cock their head to the side to look at it differently. But instead of taking the artwork and turning it upside down to look at it differently, the Hangman hangs himself upside down to look at things differently. So the dark night of the soul is when it's a single person on the card. You're kind of are going within and you're trying to get a different perspective on your life because things have changed and are changing. So that is the Hangman. It's a really good card. He's very relaxed. He's not concerned. He needs to figure things out and go through like the dark night of the soul type thing. And next we have the card that everyone actually does fear, and that is the card of death. But again, out of all the cards in the tarot, the death card is not that bad. It simply means that something is coming to an end. And sometimes if you're going through something really bad, yeah, you want the death card because you want that to come to an end. Like if you have cancer and you get the death card, you might automatically say, well, now I'm going to die from my cancer. I'm like, no, it could mean that your fight with the cancer is over and you're going to be cured. So you can't jump to conclusions when you first see a card because the representation of it could be very different. And it also represents that you're letting go and ending things that are no longer serving you because you want to start something new in your life. But you can't start something new until you end the thing that came before it. And that's when the death card comes in. And that is number 13. And then we got 14. Now, 14 is actually an awesome card. It can be a confusing card. This is the Temperance. So when I first see the Temperance, the first thing that you think of is transformation. But it's transformation kind of in a way that I would say you have taken this long journey, like this long road, and you've dipped your toe into the water, but you've got so many skills. You would be able to take this hot and cold water, mix them back and forth so each cup would represent the exact temperature of the water. I saw a video of a man who was so good at his craft. He was able to look at any color on any object and then just freehand mixing all these different colors of paint to come up with that exact color of paint. And like we normal people would need machines for that, but he was able to do it just by looking at it. So you've mastered a craft and you have transformed yourself to be that master when you hold the Temperance card. And it could be in any aspect of life. I kind of look at this as being, someone who went to school or university for years and years and now they've got their PhD, but they haven't started their career yet. But they did finish school and they transformed themselves into being, a doctor or something like that that's about to go into practice. And so I see that as that transformation whenever the Temperance card comes up. And that is number 14. So number 15 is a card that everyone fears. It's the Devil. Now the devil is the devil. It's a very self-destructing card. It's a card about control and behaviors. And it represents a challenge in life. And you've got in there, because we have the two people again, you got choices to make. Because you're being challenged with something and you got to figure things out and you got to deal with it. And like this is like a very troubled, time in your life. You're going through like a midlife crisis and you can't just ignore things. You can't just bump along. I mean, you're in trouble and you got to deal with it. And that's kind of what this represents. Okay, and next, right after the Devil is the Tower, which coincides with the Devil. So it kind of knocks over into the next. So if you do not deal with these problems in your life and make some choices and seek guidance and do all the things that you need to, if you don't, the Tower will come in. So the Tower is the worst card in the deck. For most tarot readers, the Tower is complete destruction, a complete collapse of your life. You do not, it's like if you don't take steps and constantly tune in and guide yourself, and the universe is trying to push you on the right path and you ignore things, a tower moment will come into your life to force the change. For ignoring warning signs, you'll get a tower moment, your whole life will collapse. You know, those who live a life of denial, or ignore things, like, again, we'll use cancer. If you think you have cancer, if you don't find out if you do, or if you don't seek treatment, or you don't change your life, and you're gonna get a tower moment. I mean, you're gonna get a diagnosis that's so horrific, it is gonna stop absolutely everything in your life. So you don't want to, there's no good scenario in tarot when the Tower card comes up. It is by far the worst card in the deck. So yeah, number 16. And the next we have the Star. Now the Star represents hope. So the Tower that let me get it again. The Tower, when we had it before, is absolute destruction of everything in sight. So with the Star, we have this barren landscape, and it's getting replenished, you know. So if your whole country burnt down, and then a woman comes in and starts adding water to everything to start growing things again. So this is a card of hope, replenishing, a renewal. You know, wish upon a star, you can start anew after something probably horrible has happened. And it's just simply a card of hope and the outlook for better times. You know, have faith, you know, things are going to get better. It's a sign of optimism when you get the Star card. So, and next we have the Moon card. And the Moon card, it kind of represents your subconscious, but all moons represent your subconscious, things that are hidden. It's got a crab coming out of the water, you know, your subconscious is coming out of the depths to reveal something. Whenever you get the Moon card, you're going through, you're trying to figure things out in your life when you have the Moon card, and you've got to use every tool that you have to help you get through the dark. You got to feel your way through. You've got to navigate in different ways, and you've got to bring things to the surface that you don't normally would use to solve a problem. That's kind of what we're trying to get at when we're thinking about the Moon card. Things are hidden from you. Things like, it can mean secrets. You know, if this comes up in a relationship read, it's like, whoever you're with, they're holding back something. They're keeping something hidden from you, and it won't come to light. But the next card is the Sun card. So we have full shadow to full light, and it's number 19. And the Sun is the happiest card in the deck. I mean, there is nothing hidden. Everything is illuminated. It's a happy baby. It's your birthday. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. The flowers are out. It is an absolute, and you can see everything. Nothing's being hidden from you anymore. So it's like, if you ever come across the Sun card and you're like posing a question, this is like a very big lights flashing yes, you know. And the next card is Judgment. Everyone doesn't like this card as well. No one likes to be judged. And it's a very complex card, actually. It's not simple, you know, like you're going to die and be judged type thing, or it's Judgment Day and everything's ended. The Judgment card can represent karma. And that's not a bad thing, because if you've lived a really good life, your karma is going to be really good. And if you judge yourself on everything that you've lived and done, and like all the seeds that you planted your whole life, now you're reaping what you've sown. And you're looking back at this entire journey that you've gone on, and you're taking a harsh look at everything that you've done. And if you lived a good life, you're going to be rewarded. So when you see this card, it's like, this is the card when you're almost at the end of a journey, and you're almost at the top of the mountain, but you take pause and you look back at the journey that you've just taken to see everything that's happened. And you're going to kind of judge yourself a little bit. It's like, you know, God, there was a roadblock there. I ignored it. And that's when the Tower moment came in. You know, like you can kind of, all the things that happened to you, you get to look back at it and the decisions that you made on that journey. And that's what your judgment is. And you can see it is depicted after the judgment of living like a full life. They're all standing in their coffins being judged. So, and they were almost done. 21, the World card. And this is the last card depicted in the Fool's Journey in the Major Arcana, because remember, after 21, it can either be 22 or it could be 0. So the world, things have come full circle. You have learned all the lessons there are to learn. You have perfect union and a representation of all the elements, all the 4 corners of the world. You can manifest anything that you want. You know everything that there was to learn on this journey, and you've completed your journey when you get the World card. It is a representation of oneness, self-realization, and it also would represent a full awakening. You kind of know the cosmos at this point and are completely relaxed and complete control, and everything comes to an absolute full union when you get the World card. Every lesson and symbolism from every other card would need to be wrapped up in this one card of completion. And then that brings us back to the Fool. So I'm just going to use the book. So the Fool, I opened it, is the choice. After you have done and completed full circle on everything that can be offered in the 3D, you make the choice. And at this point of knowing the law of one, that choice is whether you want to be service to others or service to self. And it's only after you have completed this journey, the Fool's journey of everything that you can find here on earth and in these life after life, 75,000 years of cycles, for a lot of us, only then can you make that choice. And we're right back to where we started, because now that we make the choice, we are starting a completely new journey with one more step at the end of that choice. And you're blindfolded. You don't know what that journey will detail. So let's do some similarities here. Hang on. Okay. So let's bring out the Fool again from the deck and just do a little bit of comparison about making how we started and how we're ending. So we started almost the same way. It almost feels like this wants to be like this or something. I don't know. So there's so many similarities from what we have in the Law of One book for the Fool and what we have in the Rider Waite Tarot. And almost every tarot deck will depict something very similar to these cards. So in the book, we have the Fool as having a knapsack, what he's carrying, what he takes with him, and this little one here, he's got a staff that he's holding. He is blindfolded in this one, but this one he's looking up. You can't see where he's going because he's not even looking where he's going. So that's kind of depicted the same. This one has an element of danger. So the dog is trying to warn the Fool in this one of danger. In the book, it's like a crocodile representing the dangers. There's dangers going on a new journey. So we can kind of see a lot of similarities that we can blend together when we look at the Fool and the Fool's journey as we start with this. So that was the first and last step, and everything that coincides with going on this journey of the world. So in the book, so now that we've gone through the Fool's journey and have an idea of what it all is about, we also have the book, and I might do this in a whole separate video, otherwise I'll be here for the rest of the afternoon. So, but just quickly, because we have to talk about archetypes when we're talking about everything that's in the Law of One book, but this is organized to go on this journey, but not just go on one journey as a straight line. It breaks it up into, because the journey of the mind is different than the journey of the body, and that is different from the journey of the spirit, even though everything is encompassed in that way. And it organizes it just a little bit different, but I'm going to get into that on the next lesson. But I wanted to bring you on the Fool's journey. I hope this helped you guys for kind of understanding how these cards and the tarot was represented in the Law of One, to live the Law of One, to represent the Law of One in order for you to make that choice. And as I go through a couple more lessons, hopefully it'll be a little bit more clear for you, because living the Law of One is living the journey of the Fool to make that choice. So I will leave it there. please leave me your comments and questions, and I'll try to answer them in the next lesson when we actually go through what's in the book. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and I will see you in the next video.